to Health System CIO's interview with Shakeeb Akhter, SVP, Chief Digital and Information Officer with Children's Hospital of Philadelphia. I'm Anthony Guerra, founder and editor-in-chief. Shakeeb, thanks for joining me.
Morning, Anthony. Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
All right, very good. You want to start out by telling me a little bit about your organization and your role?
Sure. My role is Senior Vice President, Chief Digital Information Officer at the Children's Hospital of Philadelphia. We are a academic pediatric institution located in Philadelphia. Have three hospitals and close to 700 beds, as well as 50 care network sites across the tri-state area.
All right, very good. Let's start out. I want to start out a little bit open-ended. Just tell me sort of what's on your mind in terms of projects you're working on, initiative trends. Just maybe what are some of the top two, three things that you're thinking about working towards?
Yeah, but I think one, leading a large digital technology services team here, the primary one is digital transformation for us as an institution is one of the largest strategic initiatives we're working on is really, and that we define as being able to systematically and intentionally redesign everything we do through the use of technology. And within that frame, we have three areas of focus: AI and automation, digital access and experience, and then digitally enabled care models. And AI and automation is all about how do we use technology like artificial intelligence and automation, along with others, to make our work more productive, more efficient, and help us work smarter, and save our folks time, make them more efficient, more productive, and make their job satisfaction higher. In terms of digital access and experience, is all about having, how do we use technology to create a seamless experience for our patients, giving them the care they need, when they need it, and where they need it. And the last is digitally enabled care models. How do we use technology like remote patient monitoring or digital stethoscopes or digital scales, wearable devices to extend care outside of the hospital, but into the home. And we have, a number of programs launched to be able to provide care for kids that are now being cared for at home.
Does it make sense to say that AI, you mentioned AI as a bucket and then two other buckets that you mentioned. Does it make sense to say that while you could set it up that way, anything we're going to do it seems like anything we're going to do of significance is going to have an AI component. So even though it's in its own bucket, those other two buckets you're going to be leveraging AI and moving those things forward.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think AI requires its own specific focus, which is why we've called it a bucket, as well as automation. We're building an enterprise AI strategy this year. We've been moving quite a few AI projects forward in the last couple of years. I do agree that it's a horizontal and that it will inform the other two buckets as well, along with a number of things I didn't mention. Cybersecurity will be, obviously be touched by AI. So it is definitely, we don't view it as a silo. We use it as an enabler across a number of things that we're doing and business or clinical problems that we're looking to solve.
You mentioned an enterprise AI strategy. What does it mean to have an enterprise AI strategy? Why do you need one? What does it look like? What is it? What goes in there?
Well, it's a good question because we're in the process of developing one
We're trying to
now.
figure it out. Yeah.
I think to us, it's like any other strategy in terms of it provides a perspective on what we will pursue and what we will not pursue in a very, very intentional and thoughtful way. And so part of the discussions we've been having as a health system is what is our defining, because step one to build this strategy around anything, you have to be able to define your level of ambition for
Mm-hmm.
said thing. In this case, that's AI. And so do we have a low, moderate, high, transformational, industry-leading AI ambition? And that's a conversation we've had at the highest levels in the organization, which now is informing our positioning around the AI strategy. I view the AI strategy as um, a strategy that informs where our areas of focus are going to be, and more importantly, where will they not be. It's in the first, first 2 to 3 years of our AI journey. What our level of investment will be in AI relative to, other positions we could take. and the level of assertiveness and aggressiveness we'll have in terms of our AI ambitions. We're an ambitious organization, so we're probably in the high transformational category in terms of where we want to position ourselves from an AI ambition perspective.
What do you think about the idea that we need to educate our users about AI and what it's capable of and what can do, and allow them to identify the use cases because they're the ones so deeply embedded in the workflows that it won't really work well the other as a top-down approach because we're never going to see all the nooks and crannies from the top where it could be helpful.
Yeah, I think it's absolutely a good idea to involve others in developing the strategy and identifying the use cases that will be most impactful. So as a matter of fact, as part of our AI strategy, we have a couple of senior leaders who are co-sponsoring it and leading the development of it, but we also have 4 work groups that are specific to particular domains, informed and led by others that are much closer to the work, who are then
Mm.
involved frontline clinicians, frontline staff, and others in those conversations to determine where are the pain points, and more importantly, where are the pain points, and this is the way I put this, where are the pain points that intersect with what AI is capable of doing today, right? That's really the sweet spot, because the industry is evolving so quickly, the capabilities of AI are evolving so quickly. We really need to pay attention to what is it that AI can do today effectively so that we improve the signal and reduce the noise about what it may be able to do in the future, right? That's really needs to be our now focus. Our next focus and our later focus should be around where do we think AI is going? What do we think it will be good at, right? What is likely for it to be good at in the next few years? And how do we position ourselves to be able to take advantage of that? So we're taking a multi-horizon, kind of horizon one, what's now, based on that intersection that I described. Horizon two is a little bit further out, based on where we think AI is going. And the horizon three actually is where do we feel that we're uniquely positioned to conduct R&D and build our own AI algorithms to drive AI forward in pediatrics? And so we have a large research institute, and we have some fantastic research scientists that are developing their own algorithms to be able to move pediatrics forward in terms of AI in clinical research and other spaces. So I think it requires a lot of thoughtful conversation. And to answer your question, Anthony, I think it needs to be top down and bottoms up, because I
Hmm.
think top down leaders are aware of opportunities where AI is doing things really well, where other health systems are
Mhm.
deploying it successfully, where the front line will not be. And
Mhm.
the opposite is also true, that the front line have ideas that we may not be aware of, and real pain points that need to be solved, and those are clearly the areas where there potentially is a opportunity to create wins. The only thing I'll add to that is that I think you brought up literacy, which I think is really, really, really important. And so we're focusing on creating a digital literacy component of this. It's similar journey that we took to data literacy. We actually established a data and analytics university that has now educated, thousands of folks at CHOP on how do you access data at CHOP? What is the appropriate use of data? How do you analyze data effectively? And how do you story tell with it and make data-driven decisions? There's a full curriculum around it. It's our IP. At CHOP, and we're taking that same process and thinking towards AI literacy and digital literacy at large. How do we get everyone here educated on and aware of what AI and automation can do so that they can start thinking of the ideas and how they can apply it in their work?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, 100% agree with everything you're saying. Makes total sense. You mentioned the idea of understanding what it's capable of and the intersection between that and what we need to accomplish. Absolutely. And you talked about that, what it can accomplish in the future. How do you, so you've got that nexus. Let's say you sit down and you pin that nexus of what it can do and what we need. You alluded to the idea that it's going to be different in 6 months. Both what we need may be different, but certainly what it can do may be different. We assume it's going to be improving, and things it cannot do today, it will be able to do in 6 months or a year. How do we stay in tune with that? How do we make sure we keep in line with those things? and we don't want to be at a point where we need this thing, this workflow. We would like it to be aided here, and somebody says, "Oh yeah, it could do that a year ago." Well, oh man, it
Mhm.
could do it a year ago. We missed that. So
Yeah.
how do you stay up on it? It's almost to me, it's that's going to be an interesting challenge because, and in the way I always articulate this to people is just picture yourself vis-a-vis a competitor, right? And you don't want to be your competitor to be leveraging this stuff significantly better than you are. And I know we don't like to think competitively in healthcare, but it can be useful in this sense when you say, I want to make sure we're leveraging these fully because our competitor may be. So let's, right? What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I think certainly we want to be able to deploy AI fully. I also think that there is needs to be a recognition that there are um, components of AI that are not very well understood. And
Hmm.
really many of the, for example, if we talk about bias and that's built with the AI, or safety and efficacy of these models, and how do we measure the quality of them long term? How do we measure the impact to equity in healthcare of deploying AI? So I think a lot of what I hear in the industry is, at least now, is the idea to really put together strong AI governance and systems and measures so that we can assess new AI functionality in a methodical and systematic way, so that we are not chasing the shiny object. That if release X comes out, we have a defined process to be able to um, evaluate that new functionality and then make a conscious decision of the impact that it has. So I think we want to be um, at the table and kind of leading and in being aware of how AI is evolving. We also certainly want to be in a place that we can start piloting the newest tools that are available. But I think that's the key. It's pilot, measure efficacy, quality, impact, and then determine plans to scale. And I think we've seen this with many technologies before, right? There's the new thing, there's a lot of hype associated with it. And I think as health systems, particularly with the risk in healthcare of deploying AI that is not robust or safe or effective, especially in clinical settings, can be, hugely detrimental. And so part of it, I think, is really building a governance structure around this. We have built an AI governance council that's multidisciplinary with legal, compliance, privacy, security, information security, and others at the table to evaluate AI-based tools prior to implementation. And even then, we'll likely do a proof of concept pilot to understand it truly, both pros and cons, and then determine plans to scale. So I think it's being cautiously optimistic and being, almost kind of like one step
Hmm.
removed from the latest and greatest, but really being aligned with knowing what's coming next so that you're not falling too far behind.
So help me understand a little bit here for my own benefit. Because AI is not one thing, right? AI, there are models. So from what I understand, there's three big ones that I could use: ChatGPT and I don't know, Google Gemini. Gemini.
Mm-hmm. Google
Anyway, there's
Gemini,
somebody said
Claude.
there's three. There may be more. I don't know. You tell me.
Yeah.
But there's a few big ones out there. Now, when we talk about using AI, we could be talking about using one of those three, which will give you different results. You may ask each three to do the same thing and get slightly different results. Um, and I don't know when a vendor says they've got AI, are they using one of those three or have they built their own thing? So then that's another thing to evaluate. Just because you've evaluated one of the big public ones, that may be different than a vendor built integrated AI algorithm, which is something else. You might say, all right, we like these, but we've signed off on these, so to speak. But now we've got a vendor coming in. They say they've got some AI. We got to look at that. We got to understand
Yes.
what we're doing.
Yeah,
And then you
exactly.
talked about possibly building something yourself, which would be your own AI.
Right.
So just help me understand and this idea that AI is not AI. AI is a specific tool which could, and there are different ones.
Yeah, and I would even take it a step further back, Anthony, is that AI is broader than Gen AI, right? And I think this is what the industry is conflating quite a bit, is that AI is a collection of technologies It has been around for decades and, includes things like deep learning, machine learning, right, which are the primary kind of underpinnings for predictive analytics, advanced analytics, predictive algorithms, et cetera, natural language processing, right, be able to voice to text, text to voice, interact computer humans to be able to interact with computers with voice-based, and now you're seeing it in ChatGPT and Claude, et cetera. But we've had it in text messages and Hey Siri for a number of years. Um, and then computer vision, what Tesla's done in terms of computer imaging, so that in the branch of science that's defined as AI, there's actually 7 formal branches. And what I tell everybody, and I describe some of them: deep learning, machine learning, NLP, computer vision, and Gen AI, which are the 3 models you referenced, ChatGPT, Claude, Google Gemini being the most popular, is the smallest and most nascent form of AI, right? It's the
Hmm.
newest, smallest, and most nascent form. And so it's evolving very quickly. We're starting to understand what it's good at, what's not so good at. For example, as of, prior to the last release, it couldn't count the number of R's in the word strawberry, right?
Oh,
and
okay.
and now it can, right? So
Okay.
it's right. And part of the argument that it's not a math model, right? It's a large language model. It's designed to predict text, and give you the next best word to fit the sentence. So, um, I think where that takes us is really that we need to have a broader appreciation for AI,
Hmm.
and really talk about predictive algorithms that could help improve operational efficiency, predicting census, predicting patient volumes, predict
Mm.
supply disruptions, predict. These are the things that I think, the conversation on Gen AI has opened up the landscape for healthcare systems to really start appreciating. Okay, Gen AI is great, but what other ways can we deploy AI? Virtual AI-based assistants to, respond to patient messages, right, or interact on our websites. Those are things that other industries have had for a very long time, and now healthcare is kind of waking up to a lot of that and looking to see how we can implement similar tools. And I think to your question, in terms of the 3 models, we have our own version of ChatGPT called Chop GPT.
Okay.
And so we've deployed that on our own instance of Azure. It's a HIPAA compliant, secure, instance. It is the same underlying model as ChatGPT, but it is dedicated to our workforce. It's only internally facing, and it's secure and HIPAA compliant, and in ways that, OpenAI's model is not. Because that's public facing. OpenAI publicly says that any data added to their model is now becomes, OpenAI's property. That's obviously something we can't have for patient information. We guard that very, very closely. And so that's how we've deployed Gen AI here. I think the other ways that we're deploying it is with our vendor partners, right? Which I call platform plays, strategic partners like Epic, for example. We are at the forefront of testing new Gen AI-based capability that Epic is deploying natively in the platform. So
Hmm.
we've tested the ability to auto draft responses to patient messages for
Hmm.
particular types of patient messages. We were the first organization in the country to scale that to all clinicians. And now we're working with, Epic to, to develop and test their note summarization Gen AI based model for note summarization, as well as, texts,
Hmm.
text summarization. So, I think these are very powerful tools for our clinicians that can help them be much more productive, efficient, give them time back in their day. And one of the other things that we're looking at very, very closely is ambient listening. How
Hmm.
can we make it easier improve the physician, and patient experience, where instead of looking at the computer, the physician speaking to the patient and the whole conversation is being ambiently recorded, and then the note is being created for review, and discrete data elements are being put into flow sheets. So we're evaluating a few tools to determine what's the right play for us next in terms of that space. But I think it's hugely exciting because it's going to help physicians give, them a lot of time back there in their day, and including nurses who do a lot of this documentation in hospital systems as well.
Yeah, and I mean, it probably goes without saying, but do users need to be reminded that this is a tool that will help you, but does not absolve you of responsibility? Because you have an encounter with a patient, let's say ambient listening documents that, creates a note, whatever the case may be, you need to review that, and you need to own that. So you need to
Absolutely.
check it and fix it, and it may help you a lot and save you a lot of time, but ultimately that's yours with your name on it, and you don't get to say, "Well, geez, the AI came up with that," right?
Exactly, especially in the clinical setting, Anthony, we have a concept, a human always in the loop. And so part of this is, it's no different than writing the note yourself when
Right.
you review it and responsible for it. Same thing with the AI. You're getting some assistant to be able to do that, like you would through you know, um, an assistant or a
Yeah.
medical scribe
Right.
previously that may have written the note. And so similar thing, I think it's important for folks to just know that, they still have the responsibility to and final authority to sign off on that, on those documents.
All right, we talked a lot about rolling things out, scaling, pilots, things like that. All good points. AI. Um, you have a background in finance, right?
It was a long time ago, but yes, it was in
All right,
finance.
so a long time ago, but one of the things that's come up in relation to some of these technologies is ROI, and that there may be more of a soft ROI,
Yep.
reduce clinician burnout, but these things can be quite expensive. Some of these tools. Um, and I've done different sessions and discussions about how critical it is for people in your position to have a really good handle on finance and be able to talk the CFO talk. Would you say that your background and I don't know too much about it, but something having to do with finance. Do you have a strong handle on that stuff? And how critical is it to be able to talk the CFO's language if you want to be successful in your position?
I think it's extremely critical. And I think the background that I have provides a lot of value in terms of being able to think about how will we measure ROI for these initiatives. And I think it's very important for us to think about what AI is good today, and then what are the portfolio of use cases we have at any given time. And ideally, there's a mix, where there is a mix of use cases that have hard dollar ROI, where I think a lot of those opportunities in the rev cycle, kind of coding, automation, probably. Um, the other components are the other component from an ROI perspective is AI and automation in terms of reducing the growth of our labor spend, right? Which is direct and hard dollar ROI. And then there's other ROI like time efficiencies, right? Time saved and making folks more productive in their work. That's also still extremely valuable, but we also measure that.
Mhm.
So we measure things in terms of direct budget impact, non-direct budget impact, and then we break it down and beyond that into a couple of the categories that I just mentioned. And so I think very intentionally about the set of use cases, especially as we're starting on this journey, to make sure that there's a mix that has hard dollar ROI and soft dollar ROI. And it's not to say that one is more important or less important than the other, because when you're talking about your workforce, making the lives of people easier and making their work easier is really, really important to us. And so we want to make sure we have that balance. And it's
Mhm.
also not all about hard dollar ROI. And that's a conversation, our CFO and I have had in terms of what that looks like, and make it take in a very intentional position that some of these things may have soft dollar ROI, and that's perfectly fine because it's still extremely valuable to the institution. And by the way, others may be loss leaders, may not have any sort of financial ROI long term. For example, if we're building a algorithm or adopting something related to clinical deterioration or another clinically related algorithm, and that's perfectly fine because our mission is aligned to provide the best care, quality of care that
Mhm.
we can provide, and that's absolutely the right use of our time and space to deploy AI. So I say all of that to say, yes, it's really helpful. It's not the only measure of ROI. Financial measurement is not the only measurement of ROI. I think it's broader than that in terms of patient quality and safety, right? Number of lives impacted, time efficiency and savings, as well as the hard dollar ROI generated through these use cases.
All right, very good. Just I guess we'll get to wrapping up pretty soon here. You have a strong finance background. You need so many skill sets in your position, right? Finance is definitely one element, and you've got that. I don't assume you have a clinical background, correct?
I don't know.
So that's where, everybody comes at the position from some angle of experience. Some have it in one area, some have it in another area. Sometimes there are certainly I know CIOs who are MDs. They're going to be very strong clinically. They may need help in the financial area or a different area. How did you get to know operations, clinical workflows, different needs of different departments? Because I think it's commonly accepted that to be in your position, the more you know about what these folks are doing on a day in and day out basis, the better you'll be at your job. The crazy thing in healthcare is every department's different, and it's
Yeah.
so different, all the specialties,
Right.
that it would be, a full-time job to learn them all intimately. So what are your thoughts there?
I think my number one thought is that it takes a great team.
Mhm.
And we have built a great team at Shop and Digital Technology Services. I think our team, one of the things we talk about a lot is being visible to our customers and
Mhm.
present to our customers. So that means being on the floor,
Yeah.
rounding often, seeing their pain points. And that's how the creative ideas get generated, in terms of, all right, I saw you were struggling with this. Let me take this back and figure out what a solution might be, advanced analytics, AI or not. I think from my perspective, what's been helpful is I've done practically almost every job in healthcare
Oh,
IT.
yeah?
Yeah,
Uh-huh.
I started as change management. I did business continuity, disaster recovery, project management, EMR implementations, biomedical device implementations,
Okay.
and then spent a lot of time in data analytics. And I think data analytics provides you a very unique perspective.
Mhm.
I used to report up through our chief medical officer organization. And so being part of the medical um, org structure is really, really helpful in understanding how physicians think, how clinical
Mhm.
care is delivered, how clinical operations work. So I was very fortunate to have that as part of my pedigree and opportunity to learn that through my analytics work. And then moving into purely IT, because analytics in a lot of places is also part of IT, and purely into IT, while I still have analytics, that background is still enormously helpful. And I have a very strong chief medical informatics officer,
Right.
Dr. Bimo Desai, very strong VP of clinical applications in Sherry Pardue, and all of their teams who are deeply embedded in the day-to-day workflows, meeting with our physicians and our clinicians, and also our nursing informatics team, which is now being developed under our VP of Clinical Informatics, Charlie Redmond. Those are all the teams that are doing the day-to-day work and bringing back those challenges so that we can make sure we're delivering value in ways that are valuable to our customers, not just in ways that we think is
Mhm.
valuable as an IT team. And I think that's a really, really important thing to keep in mind.
A final question, because I just can't end an interview without asking you for your final best piece of advice for your colleagues. It wouldn't feel natural to just say goodbye now. It's like I have to do it. Best piece of advice for someone in your position at a comparably sized health system.
I think the best piece of advice that I could provide based on my experiences is look for problems to solve, not for technologies to implement. And
Good one.
that has always served me well. I think with AI, it's no different, and it's very easy to forget that there is an ROI expectation. And if you're solving problems for people that they really care about, then, and this is something done in our digital transformation journey. Our metrics of performance for digital transformation are the business clinical performance metrics. There are no additional metrics.
Mhm.
So if we're not moving the needle on the things that the organization already cares about, we can't count that as a success.
You just made me laugh. I'm thinking, don't find your problems on a conference exhibit hall. Find your
Right.
problems in your health system and then maybe go,
And
right?
then intentionally
Right,
go like
right,
with surgical precision and say, this is the problem that I'm trying to solve.
right.
What do you do? How can you help me solve this problem? And then evaluate the players in the industry. That
Alright.
that I think is very well said. I think that's the key shift that we need to make. We are I think as CIOs in a very unique position, highly in demand, highly we have a purview of the organization that allows us to see across multiple functions in ways others can't. And there is a real expectation to help, that technology is at the table to help achieve organizational goals. And I think this is the time to make sure that we show the value that technology can provide more strategically, not just as a back office,
Mhm.
cost function, but a value generating
Right.
function for the institution.
Shakib, that was wonderful. I want to thank you so much for your time today. I really appreciate it.
Thank you so much, Anthony. Thanks for having me. Really appreciate it. Great conversation.